A book that examines the culture of masculinity to add to your reading list is Patriarchy Blues by Frederick Joseph. From the author of the instant New York Times bestseller, The Black Friend, comes Patriarchy Blues, a thought-provoking collection of essays, poems, and short reflections that explores issues of masculinity and patriarchy from both a personal and cultural standpoint. From fatherhood and manning up to abuse and therapy, Frederick Joseph fearlessly and thoughtfully tackles the complex realities of men's lives today. Patriarchy Blues forces us to consider the joys, pains, and destructive nature of manhood and the stereotypes it brings about. Patriarchy Blues is being published by Harper Perennial, and it's a thought-provoking collection you should add to your reading list. Welcome to The Reader's Couch, a podcast that brings you lively conversations with some of your favourite authors and bookish personalities. Over here, the couch is always booked, but I've moved some books to the side table and fluffed some cushions so I can welcome a guest or two to come lounge with us. Today on the couch, we have writing duo Ali Brady, and they're here to talk to me about the first book they've written together, The Beach Trap, a novel about two best friends who met at camp, were torn apart by a life-altering secret, and the summer they spend 15 years later renovating the house they both inherited whilst coming to terms with their shared past. Stay tuned. A candid, hilarious, and heartbreaking memoir of resilience and redemption to add to your reading list is Hello, Molly by Molly Shannon. Molly Shannon is an actress and comedian you've probably seen on Saturday Night Live, the comedy Will and Grace, the TV series Enlightened, and many more. But Molly Shannon's life didn't start there. At age 4, Molly's world was shattered when she lost her mother, baby sister, and cousin in a car accident with her father at the wheel. In her memoir, Hello Molly, Molly Shannon explores with both humour and candour her struggle to come to terms with the legacy of her father. Hello Molly is also filled with behind-the-scenes stories involving everyone from Whitney Houston to Adam Sandler to Monica Lewinsky. It also spans Molly's time on Saturday Night Live, where she worked alongside Will Ferrell, Adam Sandler, Sherry Ateri, Tracy Morgan, Jimmy Fallon, among many others. Hello Molly is being published by Eco Books, and it's a candid, heartbreaking, and hilarious memoir you really don't want to miss. Hi readers, welcome again to The Reader's Couch. I'm your host, Victoria Wood, and here on the couch with me is the writing duo of The Beach Trap, a debut novel about two best friends who meet at camp, were torn apart by a life-altering secret, and the summer they spend 15 years later renovating the house they both inherited whilst coming to terms with their shared past. So please welcome to the couch Alison Hammer and Brady Godfrey. Hi Alison, hi Brady.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you both here. Can't wait to talk about The Beach Trap. But before we get into the details, how excited are you ladies? On a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling? Alison?
I'm probably about an 11. Very excited. We're very excited.
What about you, Brady? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm going to have to say 11 too. We're both really excited. We're so excited about the book, and it just feels very summery and perfect for vacation season. So we're very excited.
Absolutely. It's a perfect book for you to pop in your beach bag, pool bag, hiking bag, any bag this summer. So yeah, I really hope readers will pick up a copy. But I want them to hear it from you two. Tell us about your novel, The Beach Trap, and what can readers expect going in?
Sure. Okay. So The Beach Trap was originally conceived as sort of a twist on the classic movie The Parent Trap. So two girls meet at summer camp. They're 12 years old, and they find out that at first they become best friends. And then at the end of the camp, they find out that they are actually half sisters. They share a father. One of them was raised by the father, one of them was not. And this sort of tears them apart. They don't talk to each other again for 15 years until their father passes away and leaves them a rundown beach house in Destin, Florida. So we thought it would be fun to think about The Parent Trap, except that instead of the girls trying to get their parents back together, it's the parent trying to get the girls back together. And by leaving them this beach house after he passes away. And so one girl wants to keep the house, another one wants to sell it. They each have their own reasons. And then they come up with a compromise that they're going to band together over the summer and sort of reluctantly work together to renovate this beach house. And one of them will try to buy the other one out. And in so doing, they clash, they have some disagreements, they have to confront some old wounds. They each have a little summer romance. So there's two love stories going on. And then eventually at the end, they figure out how to come to terms with this past and become a family again.
Right, absolutely. I felt like this book gave me 2 for 1. You get 2 romances, but you also get 2 stories. You get the romance side of it. You have the friendship and family side of it kind of coming together. So I kind of loved both dynamics. But I'm really curious, outside of The Parent Trap, because I realized it's Parent Trap inspired to some degree, with a twist, of course. But what was the inspiration for this novel? Where did the idea come from? And also selecting Destin as the destination for the book.
So honestly, it came from The Parent Trap. We were talking about things in movies we love and thought it would be really cool to take that as inspiration and give it a twist. And as far as Destin, my dad lives there. And it is a beautiful place. My solo debut novel was set there, and it's just a place that's so beautiful and picturesque and a lovely place to have a book. So we decided to go there, and maybe it was a little influenced by the fact that we could take a vacation there and call it research.
Absolutely, because it looked like y'all had fun, because this book was fun.
We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I felt it throughout the pages. So let's get into the characters a bit. So the 2 sisters, Kat and Blake, I want us to tackle them each first. I want you to tell our listeners about Kat, who she is after camp, more of who she is 15 years later as an adult. Tell us about Kat, who she is, what's going on, and what drives her in the novel.
So it's been really interesting seeing the reaction that people have to Kat. We've seen a few reviews where people get a little frustrated with her, but they really appreciate her growth by the end. And I think that one of the things that we love about the sisters is that they had such different lives growing up. Brady talked about how one grew up with their dad and one didn't. Kat is the one who did grow up with her dad and who wanted him to be maybe something he wasn't, and whose parents showed her love through gifts and money, which was very different than Blake. So I think that the contrast of the 2 girls' experience with the same person was something really important to us.
Brady, tell us about Blake. Who's Blake in the novel, obviously at that 15-year point when they're both adults and they've inherited the house, and what drives Blake?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the novel, Blake is working as a nanny for a wealthy family in Minneapolis. They were supposed to take her with them to Europe for a summer vacation. And then at the last minute, she gets told, no, you're not coming to Europe. We're going to let you stay home and watch the dog. So she's frustrated with that. And then she's also very stressed out because her grandfather has Alzheimer's. She's really the only family member that he has, and she's responsible for him. He needs to be in a higher level of care at his assisted living facility, and she doesn't know how to pay for it. So when she gets the call that she's been left half of this beach house, she sort of feels like it's a windfall that's going to solve all of her problems. But then she goes down to Destin, finds out that it's pretty run down, and also that Kat is not thrilled about selling this house. So she is really motivated by this need to care for her grandfather. And that's why she wants to sell the house. Whereas Kat, this is the beach house that she grew up going to as a kid. Her father was always fun and relaxed at this beach house. He really wasn't most of the time. So Kat wants to keep it. So there's really a fundamental conflict between the 2 girls.
Right, absolutely. And I mean, even if you don't have this sister situation where they met at camp, they were torn apart, but they're brought back together here. Sometimes there are siblings who want different things, and inheritance really is a big trigger for that. So I found that very interesting, the dynamic that it was the house that kind of brought them back together. So in addition to having conflicts about what to do with the house, they also have conflict about renovation plans for the house. So that keeps things going between them as well. But what I loved is that they both had summer romances. So in the novel, we meet Noah and Henry, and I am a sucker for single dads in books. When I see single dads, yes, I love single dads. I'm here for it. So it was a thrill to meet Noah and Henry. So of course, we're going to dive into them a little. So tell us about Noah and Henry. Alison, pick one.
I will talk a little bit about Henry, but I do think that it is an interesting thing. Like you said, you get two for the price of one. And we've talked a lot about where this book fits into the literary landscape, because it is a story about the sisters and their relationship, but there is a healthy amount of swoon with both of our guys. Henry and Kat knew each other when they were kids, but haven't seen each other in about 15 years. And they just have an instant friendship and connection. And it's interesting because a lot of Kat's growth is about coming to terms. She's a social media influencer. So a lot of it is about what is on the appearance on the outside versus like what she actually values. And so I think that part of her character growth is her relationship with Henry and what she thinks is her type versus what her heart wants. So Henry, we hope that he will be a book boyfriend for many readers.
Yes, absolutely. And Brady, tell us about Noah.
Yeah, so Blake runs into Noah. He is the groundskeeper at a fancy house that she stays at nearby for part of the time while she's renovating the house. And they run into each other there. He's the groundskeeper and she's doing some housekeeping at this house to earn some extra money. And he's sarcastic and snarky, and they have a lot of fun banter. I think there's chemistry between them right away, but there is quite a bit of sort of snark between them as well. And we had a lot of fun writing all that banter between the two of them. And as they slowly get to know each other, Blake starts to see that there's probably something a little bit deeper to Noah than maybe initially met the eye. He's not just a lazy, snarky groundskeeper. And as she gets to know him, they start to fall in love.
Yay! And I can't wait to see when this book hits shelves, what team readers are on. Are we team Henry? Are we team Noah, who relates to Kat more, or Blake? I just love these duos, both as couples and individuals. So I'm just very excited to see who readers gravitate towards.
We are
Yes.
too.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. All right. So the $1 million question readers have when two or more authors write one book. The big question is, how do you do it? Does one person write a specific chapter, a character, a scene? What is your collaboration process like? Alison?
It's something that we've evolved a little bit over time. I think in the writing world, a writer is either a plotter or a pantser. They either plot everything out or they kind of fly by the seat of their pants. And I used to call myself a plotzer, somewhere in the middle, but Brady has converted me to being a full plotter. And I think it's really important when you're working with someone else to really plot everything out. So we start with a very detailed outline, chapter by chapter. I think our last one was maybe more than 30 pages. And then we go through and we will each write a chapter one week. And then the next week we'll edit that chapter as we work on the new one. So we each write a character, but edit the other. So it's been pretty seamless. Anything else to add about it, Brady?
No, I think you summed it up. We've gotten comments from people that they couldn't believe it was written by two people and that the voices really blended very nicely and there wasn't a big discrepancy between them. And that was our goal and why we did it that way. So there was, initial drafting, each of us took one character, but a lot of editing and talking about it every step of the way.
It was a natural transition for us because we started as critique partners. So we each have had a strong hand in helping and editing each other's work. So it's a relationship that we already had. So it was really a natural transition to going from critique partners to co-authors.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, that sounds amazing. How long did it take for you ladies to kind of both write and pull together The Beach Trap? And also, what was your publishing journey like, Brady?
Oh man, that's a great question. So the Beach Trap was, we sold this book to our publisher, Berkeley, on proposal. So the book wasn't done. So there was just, a few chapters at the beginning and then a very detailed outline. And so we got the book deal and then we had to write the rest of the book. So we wrote it. It didn't take a terribly long amount of time, maybe like 5 or 6 months for us to write the whole thing and revise it. The Beach Trap came together really very easily, I felt like. It just sort of flowed, and maybe it was because we were just so excited about this story, but it came together very well. And I don't think that's necessarily going to be true for every book, but it was great. It was great with this book. Allison, anything to add?
I think you summed it up. But as far as our publishing journey, The Beach Trap is actually the second book that we wrote together. The first book we wrote together had to do with the pandemic and lockdown, and we got feedback that it was a little too soon. But our now editor, Cindy, loved the paragraph about the beach trap, and so that's why we turned it around pretty quickly for her. But the most exciting thing about our publishing journey is that this book was originally supposed to come out in June of 2023. And I think we found out like on the contract or something, we saw the date June 2022 and we're like, is that a mistake? But they moved it up an entire year, which we were really excited about.
That is awesome. I love it. So I usually kind of wait, but I think right now is a good time to ask, are you ladies working on any of the book projects individually or together or both? I mean, what are you ladies working on? I'm really curious. Brady?
Right now, we are working very hard on Allie Brady book 2. So we need to turn that in this summer. So we are working very hard on that one. We're really excited about it. It's another story about sisters, but a very different situation. But it'll still have some of the sisterhood and the romance and the fun and the happy ending that readers got from The Beach Trap. We're really excited about this book.
Awesome. And what about individual pursuits?
I have a book coming out in September. It's a psychological thriller, and it's my own book. It's called Imposter. And then I have another one coming out the September after that. I'm in the middle of, revising as needed for those books and doing copy edits and that type of thing. Allison?
So right now I am focusing on The Beach Trap and our next Allie Brady book. I have 2 solo books that came out both during the pandemic, You and Me and Us, but shifted gears toward this one. And then I'm working on another book with another author, Stephen Kellogg, who's a singer-songwriter. So I do National Novel Writing Month every year, and Stephen and I collaborated on something in 2020 that we're still working on. So right now, nothing soon coming for me, but I'm really excited about Allie Brady, and I'm also really excited about Brady's book. It is very good.
Yay, that is awesome. So, ladies, looking back at your publishing journey right now, because you both have published books individually, you have this collaboration on Allie Brady, which I'm really excited about because I really love The Beach Trap, and I'm thrilled to hear that there's going to be a Beach Trap 2. Let's just call it that for now. Going back, what would you tell your younger writing self if you could tell her anything? Brady?
That is a great question. The publishing road can be quite long and daunting sometimes. I would say just keep going. I heard people say that many times, that the people who end up getting published are the people who don't give up. And that seems sort of intuitive, obviously, but it's true. You just keep going and don't take no for an answer. And I think that's what we did with our Allie Brady co-writing. With that first book that we wrote, we got some no's that, the world was not ready for a love story about the pandemic quite yet. But the editors really liked this other idea. And so we just switched gears and started writing that. And instead of getting frustrated with one book not being published, we just turned our attention to the next one. I think you just have to be flexible. So I would tell myself, keep going, don't give up, be flexible, and be really creative.
Allison, what about you?
I honestly think the same thing. Keep going and don't give up. It is a difficult, long journey, but one of the things we talk about is that if you don't love the process, you shouldn't do it, because publishing is so many ups and downs and it's difficult. And it's not about the after you write the book. It's not really about that publishing part. It's about the writing and the craft of writing. So my journey has not been always easy, and it hasn't always gone ideal. My debut, You and Me and Us, came out 3 weeks after the pandemic. So things didn't always go as planned, but I never lost the love of the writing and of the craft. So I think the same thing. Find your people and keep going.
Amazing. I love that. So I want to get into your reading life, ladies. I know we're here to talk about The Beach Trap. I'm super excited to hear about your upcoming projects as well. But we want to know what you're reading. So share with our listeners the last book or books that you finished reading that you'd now recommend. Alison?
So I am a big audiobook listener. So right now I am listening to Emily Henry's latest, Book Lovers, and it is just amazing. And I'm reading Christina Lauren, who is one of our idols of co-author duos, their latest, Something Wilder. Those are both two, or I guess three, since there's two of Christina Lauren, of my favorite authors. And so I'm trying to just ruminate in the beauty of their stories and their writing.
Awesome. What about you, Brady?
So I recently read The Love of My Life by Rosie Walsh, and I loved it so much. It's a mystery, and it's sort of billed as a thriller, but I would say it's more a slow-moving, character-driven mystery, and I just loved the characters. I loved the writing, and it surprised me with multiple twists, so she's a wonderful writer. And then I also recently read advanced copy of a book that's coming out the same day as our book, June 14th. So I want everybody to put this on their radar. It's called How to Fake It in Hollywood by Ava Wilder. It's a romance about a fake relationship between a washed up celebrity and a up and coming celebrity. And of course, they fall in love, but there's conflicts along the way. And it's really, really beautifully written and made me cry. And then I was happy at the end. So that's the best kind of book.
Yes, it sounds like the best kind of book. Thanks, ladies. But we want to also know what books are on your nightstand or books you're planning to read in the year ahead. If you don't remember the books, what authors with books, if you know, that are coming out that you're saying, yes, when I have time or when this becomes available, I want to read this book. Alison?
So I'm really excited about a new one coming out, 4 Ways to Wear a Dress by Gillian Libby. Another book that's on my nightstand that I just adored was 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. It was one of those books where I read the first chapter and instantly knew I was going to love it. Another favorite was The Guncle by Stephen Rowley. That is one that I will recommend to anyone and everyone, but it is not on my nightstand because I listened to it on audio and the author reads it and it is just perfection. So those are 2 more.
What about you, Brady?
So the 3 books that are up next for me are Book Lovers by Emily Henry, because I adore her. And then The No-Show by Beth O'Leary. I've been hearing amazing reviews of this one. And then The Unsinkable Greta James by Jennifer Smith. So those are my next 3 reads.
Yay! We have tons of books to add to our reading list if you haven't read those already. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. All right. So in addition to books and authors, we love our local indie bookstores. We ask all our guests on the show. So of course, I'm going to ask you to share with our listeners your favorite local, childhood favorite, or just bookstore you've discovered and loved. Alison?
So I am lucky. I live in Chicago and we have so many incredible bookstores. 2 that are, I hate to say my favorites, but 2 that I visit the most frequently are Volumes Bookstore and Madison Street Bookstore. They're both great, but again, I'm very lucky to live in a city that has so many readers and supports independent bookstores.
Awesome. What about you, Brady?
So I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I'm going to shout out the King's English. They are the cutest, coziest little bookstore nestled in a very, very cute neighborhood in Salt Lake City. It just has all these little nooks and crannies. It's so well curated. The booksellers are incredibly helpful. It's just homey. You walk in the door and you feel like you've come to visit your friends. They make it a wonderful atmosphere.
Amazing. I just love bookstores, so I'm always happy to hear about new favorites. All right. So kind of wrapping things together on The Beach Trap. I mean, look, I know you've done your job as the authors. You've written a book. You've given it to us. I know you're getting early feedback and I can't wait for it to be available where everyone can get an early copy. But, in an ideal world, I mean, what are some of the reactions you're hoping for, or just some thoughts you're hoping readers might have after they turn the last page? Brady?
We wanted to write a book that was the perfect vacation read. And to us, that means that it makes you feel good. It keeps your attention. It makes you feel good at the end. We think that it should have some romance in it. And we really like the themes of sisterhood. So we hope that this makes people want to call up their sister or their best friend, give them a hug, and just feel warm and fuzzy on the inside when they finish the story.
What about you, Ali?
I think I would agree with all of that. And I would say maybe that they want to take a trip to Destin to try some oysters and taste a peanut butter and brown sugar sandwich, which is one of the specialties in the book, but really want people to feel connected to these characters and appreciate their journey, where they've been and where they're going.
Awesome. Ladies, thank you so much for coming on the show and speaking with me about The Beach Trap. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us. This was so much fun.
Thank you so much for tuning in to The Reader's Couch. You can find out more about the show and submit your questions for our guest by visiting our website, thereaderscouch.com. You can also connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Couch is Booked. If you like the show, please subscribe, share, and take a few seconds to leave a rating and review. Next week, I'll be back with new guests, more books, and some fun games we can play. But until then, stay lounging, stay reading, and whenever you're in doubt, go straight to your local bookstore or library. Thanks for listening, and happy reading.